Look closely as you drive across rural Virginia and you'll see dozens of them. Large, plastic-covered hoop houses. Shaped like Quonset huts, these structures are not quite a greenhouse, but they can make a big difference in a farmer's bottom line. They've been a big boost for the local foods movement.
Well, high tunnel can also be used to extend your growing season. So a farmer would be able to use this to plant crops earlier in the spring and maybe harvest a little bit earlier, and thereby maybe getting a premium for their product. So when it's time to market their tomatoes, for example, they might get a higher value because it's earlier in the season.
There's nothing like standing in a 70-degree structure in February when it's freezing outside, and the tunnels can get very, very warm. As a matter of fact, we can roll up and down the sides, and that gives us some cooling from the sunlight, but they do get very warm, and it's just so fun to grow in them because it's almost foolproof. It seems like any seed you put in the ground, it just shoots up, and it just needs some water and some fertilizer, and it's happy, and it makes you feel really good rather than fighting the environment outside, which sometimes does not cooperate.
High tunnels have sprung up across the Old Dominion in the past few years as many growers have taken advantage of a U.S. Department of Agriculture cost share program that splits the cost of building one. The structure has to be a simple one. It cannot have any supplemental heating or climate control mechanisms. That would turn it into a full-grown greenhouse.
These structures are very relatively inexpensive, but they function well. They're leaky and they're not the best looking structures as you look here, but they're good for what they are. The example here we've got are raspberries. So these right now, outside or inside, you don't want flowers on here because we still got a lot of cold temperature still in this season to go. But what's going to happen in the spring, as it's starting to warm up, we keep these curtains up at night, lower them a little bit when it gets too warm in the day, put them back up at night, and it stays warmer in here. They're going to bloom earlier than outside, and we're going to be able to harvest off these earlier than we would outside. And plus, we also might get a higher quality from these particular plants.
What we planted in the fall and that's kept growing in our produce high tunnel is salad mixes, spinach, bok choy, Swiss chard, a couple of different varieties of kale, a lot of beets, both gold beets and red beets, some mustard greens, collards, and turnip greens. So we have the full variety, radishes as well. We have the full variety of produce that will grow in the fall, and then we'll replant a lot of that for the spring as well.
Quinn says her other high tunnel is dedicated to raising flowers. Like many small farmers, she's found the high tunnels to be key to her financial success. She sells her crops and flowers to loyal local buyers.
My customers have been amazing how much loyalty they've shown and how involved they are in the business. I've had a huge group of volunteers that have helped me lift this off the ground from the very beginning, and without them and all of their friends around, I couldn't have done it.
The number of high tunnels in Virginia is growing fast as more farmers see their advantages. Industry sources estimate there are more than 1,200 in the Old Dominion. Commercial kits are available for growers to buy and install themselves with a small team. Tomatoes are one of the most popular crops raised in the high tunnels, but almost anything can be raised in them.
From annual crops like tomatoes and squash and cucumbers and even leafy greens and lettuce, to more perennial crops like the raspberries that you see behind me, or strawberries, or blackberries and blueberries. It just depends on what they want to grow. But the main thing they need to think about is that they want a high value crop in this structure because it's cost a little bit of money to put this up, and it's a very management intensive situation. So they want to make sure that they are getting a high value for whatever they're growing in their high tunnel.
Success stories like this mean that the next time you buy local greens or produce out of season, there's a good chance it was raised in a nearby hoop house. In Lancaster County, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.